Hi, Matt. Good morning. How are you?
Good afternoon. Because
Is it good
in
afternoon?
Houston,
Oh,
it is
in Texas,
12:19.
it's good afternoon. Yeah. Well, in Colorado, it's still good morning. So, hello. I
Mountain
still
time.
have coffee. I'm still working on that. What are you drinking?
Coffee, but coffee never stops no matter what time of the day. There's like
It's
four
6
shots of
p.m.,
espresso in here.
10 a.m., 4 a.m. The coffee pot is always on at Matt's house.
Do you
Or,
know what's interesting? So I say there's four shots. Everyone thinks that's crazy.
yeah.
However, I've learned most coffee shops,
Hmm.
depending on how they pull their shots, may not have that much caffeine in it. Because I make 1 cup of coffee here. And to me, 1 cup of coffee here is about three to four at the cafe.
Hmm.
And I was like, am I going crazy or or are coffee shops ripping me off? Like, no, it's actually just depending on the machine and how much caffeine pulls from the shot. I was
Yep.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know, my wife's a barista,
Yeah.
but she never told me this. So I always thought like I thought all these like coffee shops and even Starbucks are ripping me off. And I was like, this is stupid because 1 cup of coffee here is like way more caffeine. But I like going out. Like if I make coffee here, I'm not leaving my home. Or if I get, I have a co-working office. If I go to that office and I
Hmm.
only get coffee there, I'm not leaving the office. So I like actually going to a coffee shop and just like, I don't know, it's like a different interaction. So it kind of starts my day a little bit better. So I
Yep.
like doing that. But every time
I
for
love
the
doing
longest
Monday morning
time, I
coffee
thought I was getting ripped
shops.
off.
Yeah, Monday morning coffee shops is one of my favorite things to do. There's something about a Monday I don't quite want to be at the office just yet that early in the week, but I also don't really want to work from home. Um, I feel like a coffee shop has that energy that you kind of need. And going back to a previous episode, I had four different people tell me about this, and then one of our reviews said this was a tip that they loved. So I'm going to repeat it. Going to a hotel lobby and working. And so, if you
I
remember
remember
in the
that too.
early days, I actually talked about how much I traveled in my 20s for work. And I absolutely love working in hotel lobbies because they're quiet. They're not a coffee shop with all the loud machinery and the people. You can actually have a video call there because they are quiet. They're not going to be blasting music over you. It's usually free Wi Fi. And it's super swanky and cozy. So, like, unlike a coffee shop, it depends on the vibe. Of course, there's some pretty sweet ones, but not always. But literally in a hotel lobby, they have intentionality behind working there. So they have like booths or living rooms or nooks or tables, and you can find a little spot that works for your aesthetic dream that day, right? Like sometimes it's like I want to be on a couch in a living room, or I need to be in a big booth at a table. But literally, you walk in, no one questions why you're there or whether you're a guest or whatever. You just go. And it is like the dreamiest place to get work done on a Monday morning. So hotel lobbies are the way to go. I'm going to re-plug that here. I think that Monday is a really great time to protect your schedule. And so by doing that, I could just put a huge admin time block in there. And if I had my task list, it just kind of goes in there. But it's a really great time to look at the week, confirm meetings, move things around, adjust as you will. And really, that's the kind of day that I check in with my energy and see how that week's feeling. And that's usually when I toggle people. If I'm not feeling it that week, or I need more time, or I'm not ready to do the check in, whatever. For me, time is gold. That's like more
Right.
valuable than any type of money you give. So, how I manage that time, that's usually what I set it out on Monday. And where I do that on Monday is really crucial.
That's it's interesting that you mentioned Mondays, and this might just be the nature of our businesses, but like I have no Monday. Every day is a Monday basically, and that's because we have a lot of customers. Like I'll wake up in the morning, there's 10 customer support messages. Either my team hasn't replied back to it yet or whatever, and I'll be going to bed, and there's messages ongoing as I'm going to bed. it, it doesn't stop. Nothing stops.
Yeah.
And we're a small
Well, because
company.
you're a global business, so time zones don't impact
Not
you.
even
I mean,
that. We get people from California they'll be working at like 2 a.m., which is 4 a.m. my time. And they'll be like, hey, we want to schedule a meeting to talk about white label stuff. I'm like, bro, it's 4 a.m. Like, I'm not, well,
Do you
the AI
feel
is replying back to them. But
Okay, we're shifting today's topic completely because I'm driven in a different direction now with our energy today. I want to
Sure.
talk about boundaries at work. How about that?
Sure.
I want to ask you a question. I'm going to guide this, okay? Do you feel this is such an important issue for founders? I'm actually really glad we got into this. We were going to talk about something else. We're going to save that for another episode. Today, Matt, we're going to talk about this question that I have for you. And this is actually some of my brand therapy shit that I'm going to just throw down on you as a business owner, as if you were a client. But I would ask you, and we'll dig in deeper, when those requests come in, because you are a small business, you don't have the luxury of having a customer support team. You don't have the luxury of having other people.
Whoa, hold on. I do have a customer support team. They're just not super large. I mean, think of our business as small business. We have everyone filled for the role. It's just we're at like 110%.
You're all wearing the hats. Yeah, you're all wearing the hats. So that's where I was going with that direction is as a small business who is serving so many customers, right, on different time zones or just all working at all hours of the day because of the nature of their businesses. You say at 4 a.m., at 2 a.m., it never stops. You don't have a Monday. Now, I would argue, and I want to challenge you on this, that it could stop based on boundaries. But what happens if you put those boundaries up and give yourself a weekend to then have a Monday? What would happen to that ticket that's unresolved? Or
this is interesting. So I have I think I know where you're going with this, but I want to just I want to contribute where my calculus is. So like,
okay,
if I set boundaries in my head, it's letting go of the gas. And I know that's not true for everyone else, but how I operate is the second I let go of the gas, it begins a slowdown over a very long time. And then what happens is over time, it feels like a death by 1,000 paper cuts because you started the slowdown at one point and you forgot you even slowed down, but you start adding these boundaries. Hey, I'm gonna play a little more table tennis. I'm gonna do a little more. What happens is you slow down so much and then you realize I slow down a little too much. And then you have to figure out how to get back up. Getting back up is one of the hard, creating, accelerating again is very difficult. I personally like preserving momentum than trying to go from 0 to 40 every other, or 0 to 60 every other month, right? I actually prefer always being around like, hey, I'm at 40 this month, or I'm at 60 or 80 this other month, but never going, a slow pace.
Why is carrying that momentum only on your shoulders?
Because I part of it is I own most of the company. So I'm the one who has skin in the game, right? My employees, of course, like they got a little bit of skin in the game too, but it's I take all the risk. They don't. They're going to get jobs no matter what. If Chipbot fails, they can still find another job, but I don't. Right? So
do you have to have skin in the game to be a momentum driver?
You have to have skin in the game to have amplification. You don't need to have skin in the game to do your job well, but if you need to take it to the next level, go beyond what your capabilities are, go beyond your limits, you have to have something that is going to say, if this doesn't happen, my survival rate is lower.
Yeah. Okay. So what has stopped you from bringing on another shareholder in the business to help drive that momentum to give you a break?
Doesn't change anything. When you add more shareholders, it's just another boss.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't think that there's another type of person that you could bring in to help you with that momentum so you're not working all hours of every day? I
think finding that person is as equally challenging as keeping the momentum going today. It's right, finding those very special people to be part of your team. It's very difficult.
Agreed.
Through my past companies, like I've had some great co-founders, but there's a reason why I'm no longer at those companies, or there's a reason why those companies failed, right? Yeah. So finding your true executive team It's very difficult.
It's very challenging.
Sometimes,
So with your model
capital helps sometimes with that, with hunting, but small businesses,
in the beginning,
right?
but then the capital just becomes, the norm. And then it has to be the energy and the ignition and the power behind all of that carries them through. Once the initial draw of the capital wears off, if that energy is not there, that's kind of where you go with stalling out.
Capital doesn't always mean upfront cash, but it's either you're going to have upfront, because you have to attract talent. So there has to be a dollar amount somewhere, right? You can't just be like, hey, go work for free. There has to be some type of initial capital, or the growth is going so fast that the capital is going to happen no matter what. You can't really go in it the other way of saying, I have this idea, I think it's going to work, but I need people, right? That's not a way to attract top talent. It's a way to get gullible people, but no, it's either you have to have capital or you have to be on an uptrend. If you have capital, that means what has been built is solid enough. There's foundation to say, hey, we're going to go to the next step using this existing foundation. If you're already growing, it's unstable foundation, but at least it's like you're going into the trajectory that it's very easy to imagine what the next foundation looks like, right? In both situations.
But I'm saying not the capital itself is wearing off. I agree with you. It is long term. I'm saying the excitement of what that plan is when it was presented to them as a co-founder, when that wears off, regardless of when they get paid, it's the idea of it, right? Because you're selling the potential and the idea of it for what that long-term or short-term cap plan is. And then they still have to be tied into the mission and the reason why you as a founder want them to join you on your mission. And they have to be invested in that to continue growing it, to be your momentum driver so that you can get a break. It's
both,
right?
It can't be one or the other, and they both have to be on, because you can't really care about your business if your family is starving for 6 months.
Agreed.
You can't. So you have to have both. It's not,
so
and it's not,
balance.
It's never like,
go ahead.
70 capital or 70 impact. They very much have to be equal in terms of high importance for whoever's coming on. And at the end of the day, it's a business. This is not a charity, right? I mean, I'm sure nonprofit and stuff, that's all different. But when it comes to a for-profit business, if you're going to attract a talent, there needs to be a level money somewhere around. Doesn't be now, could be in the future. But if it's in the future, that trajectory needs to be already pointing in that direction. It can't just be a pipe dream.
All right, Matt, so you are the momentum driver for ChipBot. So how do you avoid burnout? And if you don't avoid it, what do you do when you're feeling the wear and tear of burnout?
I mean, I play table tennis. I do a lot of things just outside work, but the things I do outside work are just as stressful as work. Table tennis, like yesterday, I had a terrible day playing with I lost all my games yesterday. And it was extremely frustrating. I mean, it's fine. Honestly, I rather... It's
great for you because you love living in that challenging space of doing better.
Yes, but it's annoying at the same time. But it was one of those things where it's like a lot of factors were impacting me that day. And I can only blame on myself. I can't blame the environment. I can't blame the opponents. It's only on myself. So it's like... Yeah. Because everything's stressful already, it's already normalized. Everything's already normalized. And that's kind of why I'm always just in that growth mode at all times. There's the idea of burnout only happens when I kind of relax and then try to kick back in. And then getting back in, what happens is it's really hard to sustain it once you stop. So if I'm going from going from 40 to 60 is very easy to do. 40 to 60, you slow down a little bit, go back down to 40, go back to 40, 60, very easy thing to do. If 0 to 40 in the first place is very difficult. That's my stress point. That's the point where I burn out the most before you even get started. Mm-hmm. Because you have so many things that have to get going. Sometimes those things take a long time. So for example, I have a go-to-market strategy for September. I've been working on it. The execution, even though it's going to start in a few days, I don't even get the results until maybe October, the end of October, early November. And by them,
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about go to market for January 1st or 2026. So, that's an annoying piece of like with business is it's unlike a car where you really get the feedback right away. You don't get the feedback of your acceleration until later. You don't know if your acceleration is even working until a little bit later. Some folks will say, well, no,
That's so frustrating.
but that's not true.
Yeah.
We'll get signups. Actually, no, let me take a step back. Say with influencer marketing. Well, we work with an influencer. They take 2 to 4 weeks just to get a post out. Once that post is out, sometimes it doesn't hit, but then like 4 weeks later, another post hits that the algorithm recommends this other content that we did pay for. And then those signups get on our website. Well, those signups are coming on the website. They're not buying right away. They're playing around. They don't know who you are. They like the idea, so that's why they signed up, but they're not committed. They're not committed to buying anything yet. They didn't put chip on their website yet. So that's another 7 to 14 days.
Yep.
Of seeing what's going to happen. So it's like,
so you're really just doing, you're kind of just shooting the shit to try and just fire darts.
No, if you're just shooting randomly, that's I've done that before.
So what, are you taking numbers from months ago to try and curb where you're going to head just based off of that data?
This goes with our last episode with like marketing's art and science. The science piece is understanding the customer journey. The art piece is being at the moment, being at the right time, the right place with the right message. That's the art piece. Okay.
In order to not talk about marketing again, because the last episode burned me because it was great. And also there's a lot of marketing. I want to focus back on that level of being a founder, being the momentum driver, looking out for your mental health and saying, what would you say to another founder who also has to be the momentum driver in their business when they pull back and stop? Shit just starts slowing down massively, and the pressure is surreal with that. What would you say to that founder?
I would tell them, don't do what I'm doing.
Okay, so you're saying, hey, I'm not a role model here. Don't do this.
Yeah, I don't even advise anyone to do really anything remotely what I'm doing, because you're going to get a lot of gray hair. You're going to get a lot of, it's a tremendous amount.
So why do you do it? Why are you doing this?
I mean, I'm running a business. I'm here to make money. I'm here to make money to support where I want to go in the next 5, 10, 15 years. But the other piece to it, and it's as equal importance, is the impact I make because of the knowledge I've accumulated is really high. I love it when, we hit numbers of 100 to 200 million people saw ChipBot a month, just because we're ChipBot's installed on certain websites. They just get a lot of traffic for a certain month. And it's like, that's kind of cool, right? We're a small business and our impact is 9 figures, right? You can't beat that.
Right.
And that is something that's just amazing, but it took so long to even experience that. It took really long time.
How long, Matt? How long did that take?
I mean, it's 3 years of just basically ramen noodles. I mean, not really eating ramen noodles, but that's what it feels like. So that means really no revenue. I mean, there's revenue, but nothing really worth to brag about. And then random hockey stick, just random. Like we tried different ideas, and then one thing hit, and then the other things that we built, everything connected. That was 3 years. Most people recommend 6 months, right? If your idea doesn't work in 6 months, you should maybe pivot for something else. No, I just said 3 years.
Exactly. Why didn't you pivot at 6 months then?
Because why not? I believe in it. I believe that what I can provide to the market works. And
you're like a gut check person, aren't you? Like, this sounds like it's very intuitively led. You knew you had to keep going.
All the data said it was going to fail. All the data, everything says do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
you kept going. All right. So Matt's tip is don't follow him.
Yes.
And also, if you have your mission in the work that you are founding and you need to keep going after 6 months and it's not working, then keep going, right? Because it depends on what it means to you.
See, this is where I say don't follow me, because even if that mission is such a good cause, to do something extraordinary, you have to do an extraordinary sacrifice. And sometimes you don't have an extraordinary sacrifice. So you have to make more sacrifices to where the sum of it equals the potential outcome, not even a guaranteed outcome.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say keep going if you max out your credit cards or what you're doing.
If you're not making a living wage for you and your family,
your spouse or whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to keep going if you're not making ends meet financially.
Even if you are ends meet, right? I know folks that are financially wealthy, but their relationships are falling apart because one of the partners are just doing something else, and just that's their like 110% focus for a bit, right? I mean, you have to maintain the relationship too, so it's hard. So you have to understand where the sacrifices are being made. It's easier in your 20s. I mean, this was my sixth
more
company.
Energy,
I keep saying it's like
more
fifth
drive.
or sixth company, and I've had enough experience of enough failure of like once you realize what a true failure is and what is more of a learning thing, it's very easy it's very easy to say this is not a failure to panic. A failure to panic is when you have something like an existential crisis and literally your existence might disappear. Then there's a reason to panic a little bit. You try not to panic at all, but then there's other things where it's like things blew up in your face. But if you give it time, it really doesn't matter anything. Like then those are like easier to manage. So there's a pattern matching. Once you work with enough companies and work with enough failure, the pattern match gets very easy to find. It's like, oh, okay. And then that's where the stress gets reduced, because then it's like there's not a lot of surprises. And this goes back into the momentum piece. When you have momentum, you can wake up in the morning and check less things because you're already going forward.
Right.
So you just need to make sure, am I still going, metaphorically, am I still going at this speed? And to check that's very easy. If things are going off, it's very easy to get your team, even for a small business like mine, it's very easy to get folks who, especially people who wear many hats, like, hey, go check on this, go check on that, et cetera.
Right. If
you're at 0 and you're trying to go to 40, you wake up in the morning, if you're not at 40, you're still at 0. So, and I'm not saying you go 0 to 40 in one day, but like most of the time you have to have a lot of things going to keep going, 0 to 5, 5 to 10. Yeah, and there's gear shifts, right? As you go up, sometimes what you got from 5 to 10 is not the same acceleration type as going from 10 to 20. It's different modes. Right, I'll give you like a really core example. So launching this podcast, we have to do I'm not going to talk about marketing that much, but we have to do a bunch of crap that is like tedious work just to get it off the ground before we can actually have fun like we are today. Right. And that's an example of those are different gear and mindsets. There's deadlines, there are things at work, there are processes you've never done before.
Different levels of burnout for sure, because they're calling on us to do different tasks that may or may not be within our working genius, and we hate it. At least for me.
Both of us never launched a podcast, so all of it's net new.
No, all of it's net new, but there are some tasks that feel better probably than others. So we have to disperse our energy given those tasks, but we still have to do them. And between the two of us, we still have to launch and create all of those things. And we even hired an amazing team to help us with all that. And it still is work. There's so much that has to go into like setting up the whole thing that is the podcast platform, right? That houses the concept.
So that beginning, you can already see where the stress, I mean, we're text almost every other day on this stuff. There's a lot of stress just in the beginning. And I think it's a really good example of like why I hate that. So if you set boundaries, so let me give you a scenario. Let's say maybe January, February, we take a break from podcast recording. I guarantee when we come back, we're going to have one great episode, and then the episodes after are going to feel like a drag because we lost the routine, we lost the acceleration, we lost the context of our previous episodes. Yep. That's stressful. So then you have to like reorient yourself for 4 weeks, or at least 4 recordings. It
takes time to ramp back up and get into the flow of it.
I hate that. That's the number one thing to me. From my own experience, I never want to be in that spot. I try to avoid everything.
So for you, this is what momentum driver means. You're just, you build the momentum, you do all the work, you get all of the things running, and you never try to dip below 40%, whatever that looks like. So you're always starting the day at least 40, but you're not having to make up all that lost time. You're just getting right back into the flow as it is, because you've set up all the people, places, things, tools that you know are going to start you at an elevated momentum place. So you're just continuing to compound off of that.
So customers are the oxygen in my company. And because of that, I wake up in the morning, there's customers there, there's oxygen coming into me right away. I don't have to go grasp. That is a key difference. And that's another difference between the stages of companies, right? There's a lot of companies where if the founder disappears, they are default dead.
Yep.
I would argue, there's a lot of different type of businesses, but if you're a product company, that product company may not be in a very good situation. There are outliers,
right.
Like you can argue Tesla has a good business. They sell cars, right? So people need cars. People buy them, their electric cars, and some of them, they have a good fan base. But there's a good argument that if Elon Musk left, Tesla immediately tanks. So there are outliers too to product companies where like if the brand personality is baked in the business, then they tank. Then it's a different exception. But for most of the cases, the CEO should at least be able to walk away, even just a month, and everything operates just fine.
I dare say that this is one of the foundational topics that we discuss in my work in brand therapy. Day one is I ask my client, how much of you do you want to be in the business? So when you are rebranding, when you are creating a new brand, this is really important. We talk about how much of you, John, or whoever wants to be in the business, in the brand. And this is often overlooked when you are refreshing or starting a new brand for this exact reason. Because let's say we're branding this for 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when this thing is a multi-billion-dollar thing, right? And you, from the very beginning, now you're going to go through iterations of the brand, sure. You're going to bring on people, partners, all of the things. But in the beginning, if you have that mindset of how much of you do you want in your brand, right? Is this a passion project and it has to be yours for whatever it is? Let's say you're an art studio and you're the artist, like that's your brand, right? So that's going to die with you. Or maybe it's a legacy brand, and then when you die, your art becomes famous. Who knows? But let's say that you're growing this thing. You don't want your brand personality splashed all over the product or service and the mission that is in the business. We have to actually carefully craft that in the beginning in the brand work to literally separate. This is the founder. This is about the founder. This is why their mission matters and you should care. But this is not the thing, right? We actually have to put separation between the business, product, and service and that founder.
Well, hold on. I challenge that a little bit because I don't think, and one of my friends just pointed this out, is business is very nuanced. I don't think there's a right answer or wrong answer to this, because if your formula says, hey, I can be a multi-million-dollar business because I can be in the front, you can argue that's a differentiator, and that's why the business is successful to the point. If you disconnect that, sure, you make money, but you'll never reach that same amount of potential as you did before. For some businesses,
could or could not, right? You don't know. You don't know how much that brand personality.
There's too much at risk. There's too much. There is way too much at risk to say, I'm going to step away from the business so I can reclaim more of my time, but at the risk that the business, we'll say ability to market, the ability to sell dips. That risk is, if we're only talking about $50,000 difference, sure. But there are folks that step away, that period of where you step away has an impact of $1 to $10 million. That pays a lot of salary. That pays a lot of.
Sure. But I'd also argue, is that founder also seen as a thought leader, right? Because like an Elon for Tesla is a thought leader in his industry, right? So how much
outlier,
of that?
Because he's in everything.
He is an outlier.
Yeah, he's
an outlier, right? But we're saying how much of that founder is known because the concept of their brand was so unique that they are an innovator, a thought leader. So people follow that. So when they leave that brand that gave them that platform of thought leadership, that was where it's going to tarnish the brand and or their reputation, right? I think in either path, you can either get full collapse or you get full success. But I'm going to go with maybe the things I've seen in my experiences is if you start making that journey, there's an extremely high chance that the business dips a little. It's not like the business will disappear because the founder will come back to some capacity to make sure. Right, that's what happens all the time. It's like, I spent too much time here. I'm gonna come back here and fix it. Right, happens all the time. Right.
But in the trajectory in the long term means The founder's mission is no longer in the company. It's more in their brand identity. I think it's extremely hard to have multiple missions going at the same time with 100% passion in each one. You really have to pick one. The more you split your...
This goes back to an earlier episode of All My Shit. Remember?
Right.
I forget what episode it was, maybe 11. It was like, you can't be involved in so many things. You have to really focus your energy in one thing.
So if you disconnect from your company and say, I'm going to focus on my own thought leadership. Yeah. You know what that means. You're in my head, and I work in extremes. I know business has a bunch of gray area, and people tell me all the time, everything's gray area, but I work in extremes. If you say, I'm going to work on thought leadership, in my head, it immediately means instead of thinking about 100% customers, you are thinking about 90% customers. That means 10% customers that you, with blood, sweat, and tears, you earned. You're going to say 10%, I don't care anymore because I don't have the ability to care. I need to focus on thought leadership now for the other 10%. You start eroding what is built. And that's my philosophy in like why I don't like splitting time too much, is because if you start thinking about like, I'm going to work on thought leadership because now the business can operate without me, either you better have a kick-ass product then. You better have such a good product that you can definitely walk away, or you can sell it. And that's what a lot of folks do. The folks who want to go in thought leadership, their business tanks a little bit, they come back, it goes back up, and then just sell it. Or your
sales funnels are set up in a way that it's so automated that there's really not a need for human involvement.
Automated sales funnels only last about 2 months. So this is a big misconception. The more you automate, the more you use AI with marketing and sales, the less competitive you become, because if it's so easy to do yourself, don't you think everyone else can do it too? And that's exactly what happens. Sales and marketing are driven by differentiators. So the second you start doing things to try to automate and there's patterns, the patterns no longer work anymore because another person did the same pattern. Yeah. So
you just become a part of the noise instead of...
You can't automate. It's just like when we were doing reviews with the podcast, you can't automate it. So you can't, this marketing stuff, the sales stuff.
We tried. Matt and I, if you wrote us a review, thank you so much, because we do not like this part of the game where we have to play Apple's silly game of getting everybody to write a review, not even rate it, but on Apple, write the review. That is really what counts. So as we're learning all of the podcasting things, you can't automate it. That's Apple's qualifier of great podcasts, which makes sense, right? But it's human, it's relationship, it's authentic. It has to be generated from an actual iPhone that it can tell, and you can't dump 2,000 of them in one day, right? That's not normal. So I don't know. Yeah, there's got to be a different way, but there's a lot of things, this human nature, this human behavior, you can't automate.
So this is what my point is with the work-life balance equation. I'm not an employee. I have way more risk than what a 9-to-5er has. So I don't get the luxury of work-life balance. If I try to impose work-life balance, there's a sacrifice somewhere, right? Just like how there was a sacrifice to grow to the next level, there's also sacrifices when you want to downscale something, right? A really good example is maybe to say, we'll say I go back in my 20s, and the sacrifice for me to make ChipBot is I have to give up table tennis. And maybe I wasn't at all, but let's just pretend I was like number 1 in table tennis in my 20s. Yeah. It's really hard to say I'm gonna give that up. Yeah. And it's the same thought and mentality of saying, hey, I'm at 100% in my business, but I want to focus on other things. Well, it's also really hard to say I need to give that up to go to the next level. That sacrifice piece, a lot of people forget. You can't.
Yep. This brings me to my favorite quote of all time. I say, you can do all of the things. You can, but not at the same time.
So so now you get a little bit of my perspective on the kind of like boundary things. I know you have a different opinion on this. So how does what I've said fit in your equation model, and how do you recommend that with other business owners? And I know you might work with different types of businesses too. Like I'm a product guy, but I want to hear your thoughts.
We're completely aligned with, if it's your business, you are 100% the momentum driver. And when you stop or slow, picking that traction back up is a lot of heavy work. And I have felt that greatly in my 11 years of business ownership, especially with my newer business that I do have co-founders in, but it was still my idea that I brought them on board because they are exceptional visionaries that I felt could really help me integrate, and see my vision, right? And enhance my vision, which is what I wanted in co-founders for the second company, 10 to Launch. And what we are running into is the momentum is, I feel like I'm still driving the momentum and checking in and trying to get it going, right? Launching a business takes time. And what we've done in like the 8 months that we've even been talking about it and doing it and bringing it to life is profound, right? But also our other companies, we're like moonlighting on this other endeavor that all of us are really passionate about. And man, they have been incredible at showing me different ways to do things and expand the concept and, all the capabilities it could do with AI combining with the branding process. I will say, even when you have co-founders, this goes back to your other point, I'm aligned with you that it is hard to find that executive team that has the bandwidth or has stake in the game but wants to grow it and can grow it with so much if they aren't focused on that one thing. So this is combining a lot of thought processes here. But when you have energy on multiple things at one time, it's damn near impossible to really make waves on one thing. And this has been a problem of mine for years. And looking at the co-founders that I brought on board for that company, we're all kind of doing it. We all want to disperse our time to do a lot of different things. So we all have our primary businesses, which we're all the founders of. And then there's like other projects, there's other things, there's other ideas. Oh, and there's 10 to Launch. And it's like, we all kind of are stuck in that same place of, I want to do this. I love this. I've put so much energy into this business. And also I'm focused on these other 3 things. So this is kind of going to grow like 10% when I have time. And that's what I've been feeling. So I actually, to avoid burnout, I just made the call literally today. It's very timely. Hey, we've been missing or canceling, or like the last 2 months, the energy on these owners meetings that we've been having just hasn't really hit. And I'm such an energy person. I'm driven by my gut.
And me too.
Intuition.
I mean, both of us are like, we it's either high energy or if it's really low, like we can both tell. Yeah.
And when you are led by that energy and work, it's very easy to feel it come and go in waves. And when there's other people involved, I don't force shit. What is the point of forcing it? I mean, we're founders. We can create the timeline and the rules. There's no one, putting some type of KPI to our head to be like, you have to do this by Q4. It doesn't matter. So that's the beauty of it, is it gives me that flexibility to say, look, I've noticed this energy has shifted, right? A tide has changed, and that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and cancel, all the meetings we have, and let's just take that off because it's feeling like a task and I don't want it to. When we get together for owners meetings, I want there to be that light. I want there to be that passion again that we had in Q1, Q2. And if our other things are needing our attention, that's fine. We just have to be honest, and I don't call bullshit. I work very authentically with people. I say, hey, this is the right time for this. Let's go. This isn't the right time. I'm going to delete it and pull it back, right? And people go, oh, well, no, we should still meet about it. I don't. I say, no, not when the energy has shifted. We need to just give it some space to breathe. That's okay. Because I have trust that when it's time to come back around, it will. But the one thing that I will say has been a huge lesson of mine this year, especially since we started this podcast and you've been challenging me on this topic, is where I'm spending my time. And I have been spending so much of my time behind the Fix and Form brand, growing and selling. And I really resonated with what you said as a founder. I don't have other people in that business that have skin in the game. So I was asking you earlier because I wanted to see if we are aligned, which we are. Because I have the skin in the game, I'm the person that's the momentum driver. And when I lay on the brakes in any capacity, you can see that slow down in the next month or 2. That's usually my sales cycle. So if I'm not putting all the energy behind growing it and networking, and like we said, it's not all automated. It's so much human. It's relationship marketing. It's talking to people. It's building that energy around what you're doing at the company that gets people excited, and then they talk about it, right? It takes a lot of work. And the energy shifted there for me last month. And so this is actually going to be a cool podcast because I'm literally letting the cat out of the bag that I've decided to take a different direction for the first time in 11 years, which I'm anxious about. But the next quarter, essentially, I have made arrangements to slow and put maybe 25% or less of my time and energy into business activity, fix and form, tend to launch, anything that kind of needs my attention there for just operations and kind of keeping the lights on and just pausing for a little bit and putting 75% of my focus and energy, and maybe more, we'll see, on developing my personal thought leadership brand, which is something that I never thought I would be able to do because my ego has been so checked in the business side of things and being that CEO or whatever, the founder, there was a lot of ego I had to put aside recently. And we're talking within a month. I mean, it was so quick that this focus, all of a sudden I realized, I looked at my calendar, I looked at all the time I was spending, and I love the work I get to do, like you said, right? Like when you deliver something that is so meaningful to your clients and you've created a product or service that literally changes their world. I mean, I'm helping these clients create these businesses that they've been dreaming about for years, or they've been thinking about the name for 4 months and I did it in a day. That's the kind of shit I love. That drives me. Like if I can help them get their thing created and branded, that's great, right? But all of a sudden that level of fulfillment for my momentum and the energy that I had to put in as a momentum driver in the thing. The next phase, so Q4 of 2025, I'm shifting my output to not be the momentum driver for just growing the businesses, which has been my goal, because I feel like I've been working on too many things at one time. And if I put my focused effort into momentum behind one thing that would actually maybe grow all of the things, it would be developing my personal brand as a thought leader of Anna Gillespie and all the things that go around that, which could be businesses, podcasts, the book, speaking, right? It could be all of the things. But instead of just investing all my time right now into those things independently, which a lot of it was fix and form, which is great. The fulfillment there was great, but I felt the energy shift quickly. And I knew that I needed to do something else in order to also further that mission, if that makes sense.
So, as you know, I'm a person of extremes, so I have to ask this tough question. That means if you're going to put 75% into your personal brand and the growing of it, that ultimately means the other ones, it's not necessarily keeping on the lights. There is intent that the business will decrease in revenue. Absolutely.
It already has. That's the weird part. The weird part is it's not weird because I think God has been speaking to me and the timing has been perfect. And this is like divine alignment is what I call this, because this is kind of how I lead choices in my life. But the proposals that I had to bring in future business in the next coming months were great because I put so much momentum behind it. I had so many projects and they're still there. It's not like it was a hard no. A couple of them were a hard no, but a lot of them are, the timing is not right because of X, Y, and Z. We want to check in maybe a couple months, which actually aligns with my timing to do this, which is rare that all of the proposals I'm working on at the same time would be that kind of same response. That really hasn't happened before. Usually some of them hit, some of them need a little bit of finessing on the timing because brand work is it's really hard work, right? We know that the time consumed to work on the business versus in it takes a lot of time. So timing for this kind of work that we do is crucial. That's interesting because the current clients that we're finishing up are all going to be wrapping up around the same time that I put intentionality behind shifting my focus. And then the future projects that I was going to have to work and put all this time and energy into we didn't land them right now. And whether we land them in the future or not, who knows, but the timing for them wasn't right either. So I take that as I'm not going to keep putting momentum as I do into feeding the pipeline for the business to get more projects. That was a great sign of in alignment with the energy shift that I felt too, of this is the time to do this. Let's go do this. And then I don't actually know what life looks like on the other side of this, because I've never done this work before. So I'm partnering with a media group to do it. I'm not doing it by myself. But the timing of when they approached me to do it was all in alignment with all of this other activity that I'm talking about.
Right. I think the other question I have is this something that you monetize? You don't have to tell me how. Is it like a simple, like,
Absolutely.
Is this monetizable? Okay.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm doing it. I'm viewing it as I'm creating another company. So I'm essentially starting my third business, and it's the brand of AG, right? And that's it, because it's the strategy and the concept and the business model behind it is to monetize all of the ways in which you can be a thought leader, or you can connect with people, and you can further share your mission with the world. And I have been on this mission, you could say, of wanting to deliver more than what I have the capacity to do right now in the businesses that I have. And I think it doesn't lie just in business. I think a lot of the impact that I also do is in personal life. And so how do I connect with people personally and in business? That's not just a client relationship. I have a lot of clients that tell me after going through work with us, it changed their life, but personally. And I think that the impact that our work has with brand therapy and what it gives people, it's not just for business operations, which right now, the containers I have to work and deliver this mission in my work is only business. And so I kind of felt like I outgrew the containers that I've created for myself. And I think I need to create more containers. This is how my brain thinks of it. And for me, that's another business. And the business endeavor is then my personal brand and thought leadership and influencer and whatever you want to call that, which is basically in our day and age getting famous, right? Like movie stars are kind of a thing of the past. Like right now we have media influencers, and we have these big media personalities and these marketable personalities, and that's their business. And so sure, maybe they are business owners. They also have businesses, or they found businesses even after, which I'm assuming I'm always going to be creating companies. But I also had a really great insight from a business coach who's a great friend of mine, Rich, if you're listening to this, which we had a profound call the other day. And he's kind of been my mentor / great friend from, 15 years ago, who still gives me his mind in business coaching. And he said, when you are a visionary, you perhaps don't need to be starting and operating and growing and working in that business. Perhaps you need to have a holding company that work for you would be you have a hand in and ownership in several companies that you get to be the visionary for, but then you have a partnered integrator that then operates and manages all things business activity, but you get to be there as an owner. So you own multiple businesses, you're an entrepreneur, but you stay in your lane of visionary and strategy, and maybe you have weekly meetings and calls with that integrator and that team, and that's it. And then they go and execute on everything, but you can problem solve and really use your brain in multiple endeavors, but you're not doing what I'm doing in Fix and Form and what you're doing in ChipBot to like be in it every single day and working in it, because that's not in my working genius. And that sounded so amazing and freeing and lucrative for me to continue being an entrepreneur, continue founding businesses, continue working with people who want to find cool shit, but really own something that I can give what I'm great at into, but not burn out with doing the things that aren't serving my mission. And so right now, this pause of like the next couple months, building my thought leadership brand and essentially creating another business for Ann Gillespie, to then guide what happens with my existing businesses and what happens with monetizing that. And what monetizing looks like, I'll be completely transparent. As what I know for now with this media group, because we haven't kicked off yet, it's podcast guest appearances, which again, there's relationship building, there's networking, there's more opportunity for business, which is a revenue generator. Then there are paid keynote speaking, right? So it's the speaking on stage, not on podcasts. So both, but on stage getting, paid to show up, to do a TED Talk or to do some type of a talk in your mission of your thing, whatever your identity is that you craft with them of your brand personality. And then there is the content creation, right? So you have to get famous on social media for something. And then you get all of the revenue that comes from being a massive content creator or personality.
Let me pause you right there. You are glossily like going over, you have to go viral. That's not a thing where you can say anyone can do, right? So
No.
The other parts, yes, right? It's not, I think there's a process for say, hey, we want to get into keynote speaking. There's definitely a process, but there's no process of saying, I want to go viral. That's a totally different thing.
But I would dare say it's not necessarily viral because that's not sustainable. It's getting consistent growth on social media channels that you build a big enough
that
audience.
Makes more sense. I
That's
think I just want to challenge you. Like being famous is a totally different realm. I don't think you can't go in it of saying I need to be famous.
The goal is to be well known, right? You have to be like a household name that you build audiences with on social channels that someone is going to follow and want to watch all your things. That's where the revenue comes in with being a content creator that has a large audience, that then you get opportunity for other brands or businesses in all of the promotion or all of the partnerships or all of the collaboration and branding. That's when you have value.
I feel like you're thinking, but as I'm hearing this, it feels like you're planning for step C, and like step A is good, but then step B, the in between before you can monetize, I'm missing the disconnect here because you can't just become well known. There's a long-term there's something in between before that you have to do. What is that? Because I'm more interested in that piece, the famous piece, or the piece where you already have a community. Sure, that I'm not saying that's easy, but it's definitely easier than going. We go back to the startup, the momentum, the startup versus momentum thing earlier. You're going from 0 to 40 or 0 to 20. Like, what does that look like on social media? Is it?
I don't know. I've never done it. Like for me, my slow and steady growth of my accounts were small, but they're growing. You know, they're getting attention, but it's so small. So I don't know. That's why I hired a group. I don't know a lot about this to do it myself. I actually looked at the avenue of, well, if I invested these resources in hiring my own people and, you know, figuring out how to do this myself. The thing that I love about this group, who I'm partnering with, they have had success for decades. I mean, they've been around doing this for ages, but what you're really acquiring in a partner like that is their media connections and relationships, publishing houses. They get, you know, book deals. I already have a book. I just need to put it across the finish line. That's another outlet to share and speak on, right? And then eventually one of my goals is to travel and do live connected tours. Like I really want humans to come together and not just be virtual, and I know live events are really challenging, so we have to figure that out. But that's a big part of my brand, that in my mission and work and being authentic, showing up truly as you are. You know, I am kind of toying around with the idea of, you know, these kind of adult events where your inner child is invited to come play, right? They're playful events. It's fun. There's music, there's dancing, there's learning, thought leadership, business leadership, personal, you know, therapy, healing, all of the different parts of Anne that have existed up to this point. How do we spin all of that and bring that together?
So, Anne, I'm going to say one point and then I'll let you say the last word after. But you are talking so much in the future after the fact. The most important piece is after the community is somewhat built.
Right.
What it takes to get to the community, I'm not hearing a lot of. And
I don't know.
Your attention should be way over and not necessarily what it looks like in the future, because the planning and the execution piece is missing here. I know you're just beginning, but I in my head, I'm thinking, Anne, you really should consider what it takes to go to 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 1 to 100.
I disagree with you. So as a visionary, it's my job to look 1,000 miles into the future and see the vision. I'm not the integrator. That's why I hired this team to do it. So I literally hired a team of integrators that have done this before for many, many personal brands. and I've seen their success. And so after vetting them, I've decided to say, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z in the plan, but that's not the job that I'm interested in. And so I actually, as the visionary, tell them the future and tell them all of the things that I see this brand of this business doing and delivering. Now you guys are tasked with working with me, meeting me, understanding everything that exists here, and then building that plan to get there. That's why I hired them. That's
the plan
why I'm not
is not what I'm challenging. The plan is it's because it's your brand, not even a product. It's you. You are still the product.
Sure.
So even if you tell someone else to say, go integrate, go come up with a strategy.
I'm coming up with the strategy with them. That's the partnership. And I don't know.
Yeah. But you're the execution. They are not the executor. You're the one performing the keynote. You're the one on the community stages. You're the one you're the one working with
I think it's a partnership
fans.
though. I don't think it's me. I think together we execute on it, but they listen and ask questions and observe, kind of like what I do in my brand therapy with clients. They do that with their clients. And then once they understand what exists here, they craft the messaging. I craft the messaging with them. I have the final say, right? They let me know what is marketable in this brand, and then I go deliver it. But I'm not the one actually creating all of the assets. That's why you hire them. So they talk with you, they meet with you the first 30 days of strategy. But in a lot of ways,
what you say is the asset. So they can't create something out of nothing.
Yeah, that's what our first 30 days is together tag teaming the whole concept and the ideation of it. But I'm coming at it from that future forward vision to say, that's where I want to be. I don't know the time between here and there, but how do we need to start and what do we need to pull from this brand opportunity to get there? That's what I'm focused on. I am happy pull back.
We have this ongoing podcast because every once in a while I'm going to ask, how's the growth happening? Because I am more curious.
Please do.
How you grow. I know the end result. The vision is easy for me to understand.
Yeah.
How you get there is where I'm interested. And I think a lot of my audience, your audience would be interested, audience of this pod in general.
Oh, absolutely. I'm using this podcast as kind of like my diary with you of like check-ins of how that process is going. How do you develop a personal brand and a media brand? What are some of the things that we're doing? Because I don't think we all know that answer. I don't, right? I just see this vision. I have this huge vision of what I want the future to look like, which shifted all of my energy focus, right? Like in literally a week. And I don't know. And and I love your questions of grounding because I say, well, I don't know that part. That's why I hired the team. I don't know. And so we have to start working. And then I have to understand what's involved with me, them. Do I have to pull it back? What does the middle look like? I actually thought about that the other day. I have the vision of the huge stage, the huge audiences, the connected experiences, right? The experience, whatever that is. But what comes before that? Am I going to be talking in like some, little conference room with like 50 people and going around doing my little thing there? Like, what does the middle and the beginning look like to get there?
To me, that's the most important piece. So there's so many folks that I meet that they get really excited about like this can be $1 million business or multi-million-dollar business. Okay, great. Like once you're there, do all the things.
Yeah.
To get there, it's a whole different world.
Absolutely.
So that's, as founders, it's very easy for us to fall in the trap of just think big because that's also where our energy comes. There needs to be two areas to draw energy from the vision, but also from the ground.
Yep.
Because if you don't have maybe this is what your partners can help with, or maybe that's what they are doing is coming up with ways where you can sustain yourself on the way up.
That's what they do. That's exactly
that's where I'm looking for.
That's 100% of what they do. And I don't know that. I am the dreamer. And this is funny in my marriage too. My husband is the grounder and the realist that we all need. And I am that dreamer and the visionary and the what if gal. And often we always say like, he is the string that's tethering my cloud to the ground and he's the boulder, because you need that, right? In a good partnership. And so that's this team. As I understand it, as I vetted them, as I talked with some of their clients and what they do, it's really cool. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to get to work with them because they are the grounding. They want to see your vision for what you want to do with your brand and yourself. But then they have all the different tools and steps in relationships. That's the other thing. You're buying their relationships, their media contacts, their publisher contacts, their speaking, fulfillment contacts of people who book all of these talents and these people. That's really hard to do. And I know that from the PR game that I've even understood at this point in running my own businesses. Your PR person, yes, they're all amazing copywriters. You can have AI write your copy. You can have a copywriter write your press release. It doesn't matter. The PR person is as good as their media and press relationships. And you are buying where they can get you placed. Is it earned media or paid? And their approach on that. And that is good PR. And so what I was buying with this media team is I can do brand strategy. I could probably put my head down with a couple of other people and soundboard my own branding, right? Might not be as good. I've never done a media market, influencer brand, but I'm a brand strategist. But also, I don't have the connections to book the gigs, to book the relationships, to get the book pitch in front of someone to publish it. I don't have all of that. That is what I'm hoping they're grounding, of like piecing all of this out of the different aspects that will monetize it. Because essentially, another question I was going to ask you for another day, which can end this podcast today, is thinking about if money were no concern and it's covered, all your expenses and your livelihood are covered for you and your family, where would you spend your time? What kind of shit would you want to create? What would you found? And for me, when I thought about this, I'll end with, I wish I didn't have to work for money to make a livelihood, right? Like I wish money weren't in the picture. I would do my work for free if I could. Like with Fix and Form, I've often thought that if I could just help these people do what I do for free, I would do that every day, right? Because it fulfills me. But you can't. That's not feasible. So for me, I'm looking at, again, 1,000 miles ahead of the personal brand was the one thing that's the tide that lifts all boats. That if we can figure out some things that I enjoy doing, which I enjoy doing all those things, speaking, connecting with people, helping people, listening, and sharing my thoughts. Well, there's a way to do all of those things and monetize it so that perhaps in the future, I don't have to worry about the money and I can actually do work and create companies and do shit that maybe doesn't need to always have a price tag with it, right? Who knows if it will or if it won't. But that releases me from that intentionality behind founding the thing. If I could just be a founder that can use my ideas to help other people, great.
I think it's going to be an interesting journey as we go through this podcast. I'm going to be poking holes at your whole process. And I think our audience will be able to kind of learn what it takes to build a personal brand. So I think that wraps up for this episode. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.